Hello guys, how are you? Welcome to the video number 1 of this week number 9. Hopefully everything is good on your side. My best wishes for you. Hope you have had good results on the test. I am doing this video in advance, so I really don't know, but am wishing you in advance these different things. I know they are difficult. They are designed to be that way even before the pandemic things. Basically, it's the same thing, and we have all these different categories, individual, let's say, ideas and things related to them, right? Hopefully we will revise some of it later on, and you're able to clarify certain doubts about the particular test. Okay. Well, as usual, I'm going to share with you a short poem. This one is by Philodemus from the classical Empire, East and West. It's a really old one. It is from 110 before Christ. So it's been a while since it was written. And this one is called "Make the Bed Lamp Tipsy with Oil." Something like make the lamp. In this case, we're talking about a lamp of the time that was used with oil. You know, that was the let's say the fuel with which it was lighted before electricity. And tipsy, well, you know, it's when you're a little bit drunk but not drunk so much after drinking some alcohol. So the title is something like make the lamp a little bit drunk with oil, because you know that oil is like the fuel that it uses. And well, it goes like this: make the bed lamp tipsy with oil. It's the silent confidant of things we seldom dare to speak of. Then let it go out. There are times when the god Eros wants to have no living witness. Close the door tight, then let the bed, the lover's friend, teach us the rest of Aphrodite's secrets. So, well, as you can see, it can be a little bit dense, not necessarily clear from the beginning. But well, it basically says that this little lamp is sometimes the only witness that we have for certain activities. It may be concentration, meditation. It can be love because it's on, let's say, the bedroom, right? And some other things. So it's like the last thing that witness many of our more intimate things. So basically, it says feed it with this fuel, but at some point you're going to have to turn it off. Yes. Why is that? Because there are some secret things that we do that not even our most intimate witnesses can see, right? So in this case, they refer to Eros and Aphrodite, that are divinities associated with love and eroticism and of course sexuality. So it's dealing with that. I really like it because, well, first of all, it's really old, and you know, if these topics are a little bit taboo for some people today, well, imagine back then. And also because it requires a lot of analysis. It requires the possibility of understanding certain words. It is talking about very explicit, very intimate things without using very explicit words, and I think that it's a complete art, right? Okay, well, guys, so starting this part of the semester, I would like to mention that the video lessons will get shorter and shorter. What is that? Well, basically because I am going to give some general explanations, very general indications, maybe some examples and things like that. And you are the ones who are going to create during your assignments a lot of different materials based on what I mentioned, right? Now, a very important recommendation over here, and it's that starting this week, I mean, we did a lot of exploration during the first 7 weeks. about different populations, different audiences, different books, materials, etc. Okay, so I strongly recommend that starting this week, all your assignments start like to be developed or to be carried out, thinking about the audience that you're going to use, the population that you're going to use for the final project. Okay, that by the way we're going to talk about it. I think on the week 10 we're going to clarify certain things about deadlines, procedures, etc. Okay, so anything that you do, any report that you do, please do it based on that population, on that material or that book that you're going to use. We have had so far a lot of different alternatives, right? I giving you giving you some other materials, topics, videos. You have worked together with your classmates and you have compared their books and see how they adapt to certain population or not. So I recommend that. Why is that? Because let's say that your lesson is going to be much more complete and much less hurried if you start working with that. Yes? This week we're going to start working, for example, working with warm-ups. So if you have the warm-up for your activity, for your lesson, and you design it this week, well, one less thing to worry about, right? But if in the end, I don't know, in 4 or 5 weeks you decide that you want to change your book, to change your population, to change another thing, well, you can do it. You can do it even the day before, but it's going to be more work for you. Yes, because the warm-up that you prepared this week for the assignment will not be useful probably for the final project. And I am looking, or I recommend, that you try to capitalize the time and take advantage of it and use it in a good way, right? Now, about the book, I know that you are reading a book and you should continue reading that book no matter what. Yes, that is the book that you selected, and we still were going to use it for some different activities, so keep on reading it. But as I mentioned in the first weeks, in the first few weeks of the course, that is not necessarily the literary material that you are going to use for your 40-minute, 45-minute lesson of the final project, right? So it's important that you start thinking about what you're going to use. If you're going to use a fragment of it, if you're going to adapt it probably with some easier vocabulary, if you are going to use, for example, a comic book version, if you're going to use a simplified version, or if definitely you're going to use something different, maybe a tale, a poem, a fragment of another novel, an album, yes, I mean an illustrated book for kids. There are a lot of different possibilities, but I have spent such a long time, almost 8 minutes, on this introduction because I wanted it to be really clear. Like, it's very important that from now on you start doing all the activities for this class, like looking to the implementation of such activities in the lesson plan. Okay. So guys, if you can be so kind, go to the slide number 44 that says organizing the work. Okay. So as I mentioned, starting today, we're going to go directly into the class. Like, we spent the first 7 weeks in doing preparations before using the material. Selection of it, background, description of it, preparing maybe a glossary, a ton of different things. So the rest of the class of the semesters we're going to dedicate it to some activities that are in class. So as I mentioned today, we're going to be working this week on warm-up. Later on, we're going to be dealing with activities themselves, with some of the components for the skills and the abilities, with evaluation, with possible homework, all these different things. Everything derivative from literature. Remember that we are dealing with literature. This is the name of the course, Literature and Language Teaching. So how to use literature to teach English, right? So for organizer work, we need to be aware of this. Motivation does not guarantee immediate interest, right? Like you can prepare a lot of different attractive things, yes, and they may be curious for them. They say, oh, well, the teacher brought today like a pop-up book, for example, or he brought a poster of one of the characters of the book, or he presented us with a video, or he told us that there was a movie that was an adaptation of that book or something like that, right? So that may be attractive, but that's not necessarily interest, right? So do not be discouraged if that happen, like teaching with the fact that people have to read might be difficult and is difficult most of the times. The interest is not captured necessarily easily or quickly. Let's say the first reaction of people when they know that they have to read, it's really. So well, that's something that you have to take into account, and you need to be convinced of it and of its effectivity somehow. And hopefully, even if you yourself don't like to read a lot, if you have been paying attention during the class so far, you will have realized that well, there are a lot of benefits on literature, right? So first, convince yourself. Yes, that's something that you require. If you're a good reader, well, excellent, you already know it, and you are already convinced about it. But if you are not a very good reader, if you don't like reading a lot, or if in fact you hate reading, because that may happen, well, try to convince yourself, at least for this lesson. This attitude is essential. Now, let's say that if we go to the second step over here, there's an important suggestion, and is that teaching should be carefully organized. Yes, both at a course level and as presentation of the material, right? This is essential, especially for school kids. Yes, elementary, from which I was a teacher for about 6 or 7 years. And for example, for them it is really important the way in which you present the material. Yes, that's really important. So we have two levels over here. The course level, that is like the curriculum, the content, that everything is connected, that everything is somehow useful for them, and the presentation of the material, that in my experience, at least for elementary students, is something really important, right? That it looks attractive, that it looks inviting, that it's some sort of a novelty somehow. Yes, I know it's difficult to make something completely new, but at least new for them, or new for your class, something that you never do, you know. A change might be nice for them. Now, for high schoolers, you know, it really depends on your group. There are really participative ones. There are ones who are really motivated by games or activities, let's say by certain interaction activities, but some other, you know, that cause them laziness. They don't like it a lot. They feel like they've been treated like kids and they don't like it. Yes, so you really need to get to know your public and try to see if what would be attractive for them. So presentation of the material is really important. So you see over there in the parenthesis something that says profit and enjoy. So I would say that those are very important principles for the class. Profit, because any activity that you do should be related to what you're trying to teach, and what you're trying to teach is language, right? That's something really important. We will discuss a little bit about that in a moment, but well, that will be the profit part, right? Like you do not take a tale or a book or a novel to the class or do any of these activities just for fun. I mean, if it's fun, great, but it must have a purpose. Otherwise, it's just an entertainer. It's just a time burner, right? It is the equivalent of taking a movie to the class and doing nothing and then asking some questions about it. and then you have burned 2 hours of class. I have nothing against movies, but if you do that to your class and then you don't have a plan and you just do whatever activity that comes from the top of your mind, such as go and watch a movie and then produce a summary, which is the typical activity, which is horrible. Well, I don't know. I don't have. I have to say it. I don't have a lot of respect for that. I think that is just an easy way to get away from your class. And well, we have the second part, the part of enjoy. So hopefully you are able to have some activities that students may enjoy are at their level, right? And here's the tricky thing, yeah, because people normally don't know what they enjoy. So it's very common that students said that a particular teacher's class is boring, right? And that's fine, if they feel like that, it's okay. But then when you ask them, like, okay, so what can I do so the class is not so boring? And they would say something like, you make it more dynamic. Okay, dynamic what? More didactic, right? And they don't know even what they want. Yes, most of the times. Sometimes they associate fun with doing nothing, or with doing certain games that are not necessarily associated to what you're doing. I don't know if you have ever received a suggestion, okay, teacher, let's go and play soccer in English. Okay, yeah, sure. So how's that, right? There are ways to do it. Actually, I have done that at some point in schools. But it's not just simply like screaming commands or knowing about corners or offsides or things like that. So as they don't really know most of the times what they want, well, you have to explore it. You have to suggest things. You have to try, and it's a trial and error thing. Sometimes you think that there are certain activities or materials or approaches that will be really funny for them and really interesting, and then you arrive and they hate it. Yes, and they are not interested at all, or they are interested for a couple of minutes and then they leave that, and you see in their faces that they're not really enjoying that. On the other side, we have certain activities that are not as well prepared, or we didn't think that they were going to be good or fun, and they enjoy it. Yes, and you didn't expect that. So, as I mentioned, it's a matter of trial and error, and trying to see how it works. Now, the most you know your group of students, the better this is going to work. Well, as I mentioned before, we have these two objectives in mind. The first one that is to improve the general command of the language, right? So that's something that I cannot emphasize enough, and it's that even though this is a literature and language teaching course, literature here is a tool, is a medium, right? We are not teaching literature. We are really not interested in this course into teaching the biography of certain character, or teaching the literary style of the character or something like that. No, we study the biography if necessary, if it's something complementary to what we do. We anticipate the style if we think that is something that may be enriching for the vocabulary, for the skills of the kid, or that it can be challenging, and so you have to anticipate it, right? But we're really not interested in getting to know, so that our students know that they later on can be answering an evaluation that Poe belonged to the Gothic Romantic period or something like that. Now, we're not dealing with that here. We will deal with that next semester when we're in literature. That's a different thing. That's pure literature, and the emphasis is on literature. But here the emphasis is on English, okay? So remember that every time that we're going to use a literary material, that is going to be only an instrument, okay? So make sure that everything you employ, everything you do, it's in order to teach English. So they know grammar, or they know vocabulary, or they know certain language skills, well, whatever, right? But that is going to be your main goal. Literature is accessory, what we have over here. Remember also that we're dealing with only a class. Yes, that is why we're giving such an important amount of time to literature over here. So let's imagine that you're a titular teacher for them, and you have, I don't know, 4 hours a week, 6 hours a week, depending on the class. On the school. I'm sorry. And let's say on your normal work, probably you would dedicate an hour of your 6 to doing an activity with literature. You see the balance over there, the difference. Now the class is about literature and language teaching, so that is why we're focusing about it. But what I mean here is that you don't need to teach every single of your classes using literature. In fact, you can teach very good classes of English without ever using literature, and that's a fact, right? Now you will be losing a lot of benefits and possibilities, but that's a fact, right? So that's the first part, the focus on the let's say the material, the purpose or the goal of teaching English, and then the second one is understand and enjoy the material as completely as possible. Yes. About the material, I'm talking about the poems, the novels, the tales, the short stories that you're going to use, and you're required to do both things. Well, you're required to make students understand it as fully as possible, and if they understand it, there is a bigger chance that they are going to enjoy them, right? So that is the whole point of facilitating all these glossaries, facilitating all these let's say different things about the background and the style and the biography if necessary, or the literary criticism, etc., right? The idea is that it facilitate understanding of the text for your student, and because of that, there is a potential of enjoying it. Yes, if you do not understand something, it is quite difficult to enjoy it. Yes, it might happen, on accident, but here we're not trying to wait for luck or waiting for accidents to happen, but trying to control as much as we can the outcome of our classes. Sure, there are a lot of things that we cannot anticipate. There are certain things that definitely do not go as we planned. But a good planning and a good, being aware and conscious about what we're doing is going to minimize unpleasant surprises. Yes, it's going to help us do our job a little bit better, and that's why planning and anticipating certain things is so important. So that's what we have until this first video. Hopefully you were able to understand some of the main key ideas about it, and what we're going to do in the second video is to talk about certain alternatives for warm-ups that you have in cases in which moments in which you can do literary things, and they will be basically enunciated. I'm going to give you a general description to explain a little bit about them, and give you some just comprehensive review. And the idea is that you employ that. You decide which of those are better for you, are best, and maybe if you can think of something new, well, much better. But that's it, okay? So thank you very much for your attention. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Hugs.